Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Super SEC Conference Dynasty. I think the title basically says it all, but here we go. I've combined what I've arbitrarily decided are the 16 biggest brands in all of college football, put them into one conference, and I've adjusted the conference settings to be a 12-game conference schedule. And now we're going to simulate 10 years of this and see what happens. So jumping right into it, let's take a look at what these schedules are going to look like. These are absolute gauntlets. But one thing I noticed when I get to the end is that Alabama still has Auburn on their schedule, even though Auburn is not in the conference. Then when we check out Clemson's schedule, you'll see the same thing for South Carolina. Their big rival, that is an out-of-conference game, and Auburn, Alabama, is now an out-of-conference game, is still on the schedule. Comparatively, when we get over to Florida and Florida State, you will see that they do not have any out-of-conference games, perhaps because all their rivals are now in the conference. So unfortunately, it looks like there's nothing I can do about it, but we will occasionally have some one-off non-conference games put on team schedules. I'm not sure if that is a math thing with 16 teams and 12 conference games, or if the game just decided that it's going to keep some of these rivalry games on the schedule. But whatever, I don't think it'll take away from too much. The schedules are still going to be incredibly difficult for these teams, even if they do get one game that is slightly less difficult. Now, after we look at a few of these schedules, now Florida State, and we're going to look at Georgia's in a second, and then we're going to sim forward to the release of the first college football playoff ranking that comes out around week 10, just to get a sense of where these teams are at when they get a little past the midpoint of the season. It's just fun to keep tabs on how they're doing. And as you'll see here in year one, Oregon's off to a great start. They're 8-0. They are ranked number 1 in the country. We also have Georgia and Clemson right there, Miami, Oklahoma, Alabama. And then we go all the way down and see Tennessee and Ohio State are 1-6. Moving on now, let's check out the first college football playoff bracket really quick, and now move forward to conference championship weekend where we have Michigan versus Oregon. Let's hop right into this Michigan versus Oregon game now. Jump right into a minute 30 left in the fourth quarter. Oregon has to drive the whole field as they're down 4 points. They need a touchdown to take the lead. First down pass is incomplete as they line up here on second down. Let's see what they can do. It doesn't look like that's Dillon Gabriel in the game. I'm not sure what happened there. But they complete one over the middle to their big tight end who rumbles all the way out across the 50-yard line. Now go and hurry up here as they get to the line quickly to snap the ball as the clock ticks under a minute and 20 seconds. Yeah, that quarterback is clearly number 5, and I believe Dillon Gabriel wears 8. And yes, indeed, that is the transfer Dante Moore from UCLA, former 5-star recruit out of high school. Perhaps Gabriel got hurt. I'm not entirely sure, but Moore is the one in the game right now as he throws another ball over the middle completed and down close to field goal range, but they do need a touchdown here as they line up again here under a minute now. And Moore's going to be sacked back about the 44-yard line. And the clock is ticking. Oregon only has one timeout left. They're going to line up to spike the ball here. And they do spike it. It's now going to be 3rd and 18. As Moore is back in the shotgun, he takes the snap. He's standing in the pocket for a little too long. He looks to take off. He probably should have just ran as the defense catches up to him and sacks him. It's now 4th and 21 as we come up on 30 seconds left. It is not looking good for Oregon here in this inaugural Super SEC championship game. Moore throws into coverage, and that's going to be intercepted by Michigan. That should do it for this one. The Michigan Wolverines are going to be your first SEC champions of this dynasty. The Oregon fans cannot believe it as Michigan poses for a picture to celebrate Will Johnson's interception. I think Will Johnson picked it off. It might have been a safety coming underneath. No, it is a safety. It is Makari Page who comes up with the pick as Michigan comes out in victory formation. And they will take a knee to ice this one as the clock runs down. And the celebration begins. Michigan will be headed to the college football playoff. Oregon probably will as well, as I believe they were the number 1 team or close to it in the country. So they will almost certainly still get an at-large bid. Alex Orji is your player of the game. And that SEC championship, oddly enough, is heading to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Oregon ends up with the 5 seed, so we could see a quick rematch here. Those are our only teams in the playoffs this year. And then heading on to second week, Oregon beats Memphis, and now they will get the rematch against Michigan. Looking at some other games, the number 1 team, NC State, will play Missouri. And now Oregon knocks off Michigan. NC State will play Oregon in one semifinal. The other semifinal will be West Virginia versus Kansas State. And now moving ahead to the national championship, it's going to be Oregon versus Kansas State. So one of our teams makes the title in year 1, and we're going to jump into this national championship game to see what happens. So as we get right into it, with 1:54 left on the clock now in the fourth quarter, Kansas State leads 13-7. One thing that I quickly realized when doing this part of these videos is I probably should have set the quarter length to longer than 6 minutes, because it seems like when I super sim through some of these games, the scoring is a tad bit on the low side. But anyway, let's see if the Ducks can mount a comeback here, as it's 2nd and 5 from their own 48-yard line. Moore again is the quarterback in the game. I probably should have just checked this, but I'm going to assume that Dylan Gabriel got hurt. Now big 3rd and 5 here for the Ducks. And Moore throws, and it is complete to the tight end. First down Oregon here as they go hurry up now, as we are under 1:30 left in this game. Still plenty of time left, though, as Moore looks to the sidelines. Now he takes the snap at an empty set. Kansas State brings a blitz, but Moore gets it out quick over the middle. And that's going to be another first down for Oregon, as they are going to go hurry up again, and again line up in an empty formation. Moore looks back to the sideline for direction again, and then takes the snap. Again another blitz, and again another receiver left open underneath that Moore is able to hit quickly. And the Duck is getting excited as Oregon marches towards a go-ahead score here late in the fourth quarter. Now Moore again in the shotgun, this time with a running back to his left. Hands off to that running back, who goes up the middle for a nice gain. Picks up 8 yards on first down. It's going to be 2nd and 2. The clock's still running. Plenty of time for Oregon now. They probably don't want to leave too much time, as they throw out to the right side, and that's going to be a touchdown for Oregon. So they might have left too much time here, but they do score, and an extra point will put them ahead by 1 point here with under a minute to go in the national championship game, as the Oregon fans are extremely excited here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the exact stadium that we played the SEC championship game in, oddly enough. Well, I guess it's not that odd. It's like one of 6 stadiums in this country that get rotated around for these events. Maybe more than 6. But anyway, Oregon's extra point is up and good, and they are up by 1 point here. And now they're going to kick it off back to Kansas State. And that'll be a touchback in the end zone. Now here comes Avery Johnson and the Wildcats with 52 seconds on the clock. First down snap, Avery Johnson looking downfield, throws. It is incomplete, throws into traffic. Almost lost the game on that one. Avery Johnson back here on 2nd down now. Takes the snap. Throws over the middle. He's got a guy wide open, and they're out and near midfield. Just across midfield. Back come the Wildcats after a timeout. 41 seconds on the clock. Avery Johnson takes the snap. Throws downfield again. And that ball is incomplete. It'll be 2nd and 10 now. 37 seconds on the clock. Avery Johnson barking out signals. Takes the snap. And now it looks like he's going to take off, and he's got a lot of room. Avery Johnson down inside the 30. He's tackled at the 27, or actually slides down at the 27. Kansas State is now well within field goal range. Johnson again underneath. Picks up about 5 or so, and they will call a timeout. That is the last timeout for Kansas State. So they're going to have to be a little bit careful now as they come out in a bit of a heavier formation, and they run the ball. And that'll be a first down. And now they should probably just line up for the field goal. They do. Oregon ices them. In this situation, icing's probably a bad idea because the clock was running. Probably want to give them the stress of the clock being running. But anyway, the kick is up, and it is good. And that should do it. Kansas State takes an extremely late 2-point lead, and they're going to win this one. Your very first national champions of this dynasty are the Kansas State Wildcats. A bit of a bummer for Oregon. They are much higher rated than Kansas State, but in my experience in this game, Kansas State does do pretty well in Simthers, so it's not the biggest shocker in the world that they are able to do this. But definitely a little bit of a stinger for Oregon as they scored with under a minute to take the lead and couldn't hold on. Now moving forward to National Signing Day, here are our final recruiting rankings from year one. As you see, our conference still absolutely dominates this arena. Wisconsin looks like the only team in the top 10 who's not in our conference. So that's pretty amazing. Now moving forward into year two, here's our preseason poll. Oregon, the number one team in the country, and a few of our other teams scattered throughout the rankings. It's not like year one where we were basically the top 12 teams or top 14 teams or whatever. Now jumping forward to around week 10 when the first college football playoff rankings come out, Alabama and Oregon are up at the top of the conference, Florida State right behind them, Oklahoma also knocking on the door. The Florida Gators are ranked 23rd with a 4-3 record. And as you can see, once again, the conference is kind of cannibalizing itself as LSU is 1-6, but everyone else is pretty bunched up aside from the teams at the very top or the very bottom. And LSU is another team who it seems like in Simthers that I've witnessed so far, they never seem to be that good. Now checking out the Big Ten for a second because I'm curious. USC is undefeated. They were a team that I was on the fence about putting in here, and I left them out for Tennessee. But I was kind of agonizing over this a little bit as they take a peek at our college football playoff rankings at that point. And now we head to the end of the season, and our conference championship is set. It will be Alabama versus Georgia. But anyway, yeah, I did agonize over whether Tennessee belonged or whether USC belonged. And at this point, I'm thinking I might have made the wrong choice. As you see, USC is 11-1, and Tennessee is 2-10. Now, very different schedules, but I think I might make the switch after this season. Anyway, heading into this one, under 2 minutes left, Georgia hits a huge play as they were down 7 to Alabama here in the conference title, but now it's about to be all tied up. Georgia's going to kick this back to Alabama, and now Alabama has got to score if they want to win this one. So they take the return and get tackled pretty short before the 15-yard line. But Bama comes out, and Jalen Milroe is still their quarterback. And he's going to see if he can get the job done here in the SEC title. As he throws out wide for a completion on first down. They pick up 5 yards. Now coming back on second down. He's barking out signals. Now he takes the snap. Milroe throws over the middle. It is knocked out, and that's going to be an incompletion. Now a big third down here as Alabama does not want to have to punt this football back to Georgia. As Milroe once again making adjustments at the line, takes the snap, throws, and that is incomplete. Alabama is going to have to punt this one back with under 1:30 left. Definitely not the best clock management there, I would say. As Georgia fields the punt and calls for a fair catch. Now at the 40-yard line, all they need is about 25 yards to get in field goal range. Now I think Carson Beck has left at this point. I think, what's this guy's name? Gunnar Stockton or something like that. And Alabama gets a huge interception. What a turn of events. It looked like this game was in Georgia's hands. But they throw a pick on first down, and Alabama's breaking out the turnover belt to celebrate. Man, what a swing right there. It looked like Georgia had this game under control, and now Alabama's going in. It looks like they're going to win this. Milroe drops back and throws, and into a tight window. That's complete. Now we're going to time out here, called by Georgia to try to preserve some time in case Alabama scores. Now second down, Milroe takes the snap, hands off inside. It looks like Bama might just play for a field goal here as Georgia uses its second timeout. If Alabama can get a first down and not score somehow in that little 2-yard window between the marker and the end zone, then they could definitely just run the clock down and kick. But on second down, Milroe's going to keep it, and he's going to rumble into the end zone. That's a touchdown for Alabama, so at least Georgia will have a shot to answer, as the Tide are going to take a 1-score lead here late in the fourth. Extra point is up and good. And it is now 28-21 Alabama over Georgia here in our Year 2 SEC Championship game. Bama's going to kick this one back to the Dogs. We're going to get tackled at about the 15-yard line. Not ideal, I would say. Georgia's going to come out, trips to the left, running back to the left of the quarterback as well. And he throws over the middle, complete, out close to the 30-yard line. Now Georgia's going to go hurry up as the clock stops with a first down, but starts running again. Now they're going to spike this, and it'll be 2nd and 10. They still have a long ways to go, and they need a touchdown. Frankly, Georgia hit that one play, but everything else they've done on offense hasn't really instilled a ton of confidence in me. As he throws this one over the middle, and that is incomplete. It's going to be 3rd and 10 now. As Stockton, I'm pretty sure that's his name, comes back to the line. He's going to take the snap on 3rd down, hang around in the pocket, and get sacked. And now this is now it's getting scary for Georgia, as it is 4th and 18 with the clock running under 1 minute. Stockton drops back, throws over the middle. That's going to be intercepted, and Alabama is going to take this one, it looks like. They might even return this to the house, but no, number 7 steps out of bounds. But Alabama takes this one 28-21. They will be your conference champion heading to the college football playoff. And I think because of where Georgia's ranked, that might put them outside the playoff now as well. Alabama might be our only team in the playoff this year. And yes, that is indeed the case. Alabama at the 3 seed is the only SEC team to make it this year. Hopefully they can represent us well and make a good run to the championship. Alabama actually lost their first game to South Carolina, so I just went ahead and simmed the next few weeks. Pitt is your national champion over Kansas State in a kind of random occurrence, but Kansas State made it back for the 2nd straight year, but the Pitt Panthers actually take them down and win a national championship. Who would have thought? Now, heading into the offseason, here are our recruiting rankings in Year 2. Here are the conference recruiting rankings. I went through that first screen kind of fast. I'm sorry about that. But as you see, A&M and Tennessee towards the bottom. At this point, I am thinking we should probably move Tennessee out for USC, because USC was the number 1 team in the country last year. They do, I think, in my playing this game, have a track record of being good into the future. When you sim through these things, they have a top 11 recruiting class there. So I think we're going to do it. Yeah, so this is our new SEC with USC now instead of Tennessee. Now let's take a look at the preseason poll. Alabama number 1, USC number 2, new member of the conference. Now let's jump forward to week 10 or so, the first college football playoff rankings. And we've got Georgia and Oklahoma and Texas all tied up at the top. Well, Georgia's technically ahead because they've played one more conference game. As you see, Oklahoma and Texas had the non-conference game on their schedule. Newcomer USC is 3-5. LSU continues to be kind of bad at 1-7. And 0-6, so they've had 2 non-conference games, and it's still not helping them, and they lost. Now let's check out the first college football playoff projections. We've got Georgia in there, as well as Oklahoma and Texas, and we might have picked the wrong year to kick Tennessee out. Turns out this is, I think it's Nico's senior year now, so Tennessee's actually good. Maybe not the finest timing on that one, but whatever, I'm sticking by it. But yeah, it looks like we will have a shot to get 3 teams into the playoff this year. Heading towards the end of the season now, it'll be Texas versus Georgia in the SEC championship game. This is a game we'll see in real life in a couple weeks. And now scrolling down to the bottom, as you can see, the conference continues to cannibalize itself. LSU continues to be bad. Everyone else continues to be bunched up in the middle outside of the few outliers. Looking at LSU, they lost to Charlotte out of conference, and their only win was against FCS Midwest. Anyway, heading into that Georgia versus Texas game now for the SEC championship. Not a lot to see here. Texas steamrolled them 28-7. There's Arch Manning securing a conference championship for the Texas Longhorns. He was the player of the game with under 100 passing yards. As we see, we've got Texas in, we've got Oklahoma in a possible Red River rivalry playoff game coming up, and then we've got Georgia in as well. So 3 teams get into the playoffs for the Super SEC this year. I guess I kind of jumped the gun on this one. Arch Manning is your Heisman winner. 40 touchdowns and 0 picks. What a stat line. I don't know if I've ever seen... I've seen some low interception totals, but never 0. Now, as you see, Georgia got bounced in the first game by Kansas State. Texas was knocked off by Oklahoma, who's now on to the semifinals against Nebraska. Tennessee's in the other semifinal, and they will meet in the national championship. As you see, Tennessee's overall is not that good, but as we get into the game, it is indeed Nico's last year, and he throws a pick here with 1:47 left. And Oklahoma's going to have the ball now with a chance to go down and score the game-winning score. A huge play for the Sooners here late in the fourth quarter as they look to secure the first national championship for a team in our conference here in year 3. Is that Jackson Arnold probably? Yeah, it's got to be, right? Sacked on first down. It's going to be 2nd and 19 now as they're going to go hurry up. 1:35 on the clock as he's back to the line. Now he drops back. Arnold looking to throw. Throws it underneath to a receiver who picks up a nice gain. As they get it back to 3rd and 2 here. Jackson Arnold in the shotgun. He takes the snap. He drops back. Tennessee brings a blitz. Arnold throws it out to a receiver who's got a catch, and they're into Tennessee territory. Very close to field goal range now. Under 1:20 on the clock. Clock running. Arnold comes back to the line. Arnold's going to take the snap, drop back, surveys the field, scrambles out of the pocket, throws out of bounds just to get rid of it. 2nd down and 10 now. Arnold pointing at defenders, takes the snap, drops back, throws towards the sideline. This is caught, I think, but the Tennessee defender is injured, so they will have to take an injury timeout. As now we are back in action here. 3rd and 5. Oklahoma has trips to the field side up at the top of the screen. They'll hand this off, and they will get stopped. Tennessee will take a timeout. It's going to be a 4th and about 4 right now. Oklahoma will line up for a go-ahead field goal with 1 minute left. And they will take the snap. The kick is up, and the kick is good. Oklahoma takes the lead here with under 1 minute left in the national championship. Let's see if Nico has an answer for them. As Oklahoma kicks it back to Tennessee. Tennessee fields it around the goal line, but gets tackled pretty short of the 20-yard line. Now coming back out, Nico, what do you got here in the 2027 College Football Playoff Championship game? Throws underneath to an open receiver, makes a move, picks up a 1st down. Now they're going to get back on the ball here quickly as the clock is running under 50 seconds. Nico looks like he's going to spike this. And they're going to come back on 2nd down now with 45 seconds on the clock. They just need a field goal to tie. A touchdown would take the lead. Nico rolls out, throws. It's going to be intercepted again. And it looks like Nico's going to cost Tennessee a shot at a championship here as they turn it over with just 39 seconds on the clock. Oklahoma runs the clock out, and they are your first SEC team in this dynasty to win a national championship. It would have been really funny if Tennessee won right after we kicked them out of the conference. But luckily they did not, and now Nico will leave, so I anticipate that they won't be as good going forward, but we'll see. Maybe they will just become a powerhouse. As Oklahoma hoists that championship trophy, now we head over to National Signing Day. Once again, our conference dominates this list as Auburn and Wisconsin and Kansas State are in the top 10, but the rest of them are SEC members. It's funny how our teams all beat each other and aren't ranked at this point, as you see all the other schools ranked. But now here are the SEC conference rankings. Most teams doing pretty well recruiting. But down at the bottom, Florida State signing a lot of 3 stars, only 4 4-stars. Now as we head into the next season, here's our preseason poll. Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia are the top 3. Back where they belong, how it should be. But the rest of our teams, we have a few more scattered out, but none ranked super high like those 3. Jumping forward to the first college football playoff rankings, Georgia, Clemson, and Texas are all 7-1 at the top of the conference. Georgia and Texas are looking to make back-to-back appearances in the college football playoff, and Texas is looking to go back-to-back as conference champions. And then down at the bottom, we have LSU once again and Notre Dame. Now as we move over to check out the college football playoff bracket, the first projection that's come out this year, we see Georgia's the number 1 team in the country, and Texas and Florida look like they would play in a matchup to see who plays Georgia, and Clemson also in this field, as is Texas A&M. We have 5 teams in this inaugural field. I'm not sure that is going to hold given the nature of this conference and the 12-game conference schedule as we fast forward. And it has very much not held. Florida is now down at 17. Texas A&M is unranked. We will get a Texas versus Georgia conference championship. Clemson should be in the playoff no matter what. I think all 3 of these teams should be in the playoff no matter what. But Texas and Georgia will play for a first-round bye and possibly the number 1. So let's see. Last year, Texas was able to beat Georgia in the conference title by a score of 28-7. And as we jump into this year's game, it is much of the same as Texas handles them 24-9. There was never really a compelling moment to jump into this game as Arch Manning takes Texas back-to-back in the SEC, as they will head into the playoff likely as the number 1 or number 2 seed. I think Georgia was the one who was ranked 1 coming into this game, so I'm not sure if Texas will jump up to 1. You see Arch Manning is still there leading the way, but Ryan Puglisi is the year 2027 Heisman winner for the Georgia Bulldogs. As you see, Clemson and Georgia still make the playoff for us. Clemson would be in line to play Texas if they can beat their in-state rival South Carolina. Georgia has a matchup with Colorado State and then Navy, so not a bad path at all for them. Now as we move on to round 2 and see the results of round 1, you will see that Texas is playing Clemson. Clemson smoked South Carolina. It's a 69-35. Georgia pulled a close one out against Colorado State. And down on the bottom, Maryland and UTSA advance. So now we see if Georgia advances, we are guaranteed to have one of our teams in the national championship game because someone has to win that Texas and Clemson game, and the winner is Clemson. They win it 35-29. Georgia in a close one over Navy will now play Clemson for a shot at the national championship. The other semifinal will be Maryland versus Nebraska. As we now advance to the next week and see who's in our national championship, it will be Georgia versus Nebraska in NRG Stadium in Houston. And once again, we have a game with no super competitive action, and Georgia is able to come out on top as your winner. They'll win this one easily by a score of 35-13. As Georgia's second consecutive trip to the playoffs, this time this one ends with a national championship. And so the conference has now won 2 titles in a row. We've been represented in the title game 3 out of 4 years. Now move into the offseason. Georgia is again the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Auburn has been up here a lot. Auburn is starting to catch my eye as a team that maybe belongs in this conference. They are a team, again, that was highly considered. They're kind of down right now, and that's why they aren't in. Their rating isn't that high. They were like an 84 overall at the start of the dynasty. But anyway, the worst recruiting team in the conference is Clemson, as they start to slip a little bit. Moving on, as we are now into year 5, Georgia and Miami are atop the conference when the first college football rankings come out, but Miami already has 3 losses as the second-place team. So it's looking like Georgia might be on an island by themselves at the top of this conference. As we advance to the end of the season, and yeah, Georgia is the only team in our conference that is currently in this projection before conference championship games are played. There's also some really random teams here. Middle Tennessee State, Rice, Eastern Michigan. And lucky Miami had an out-of-conference game this year, which they lost, but they are only 8-3 in the conference. Everyone else besides Georgia has at least 4 losses. So it will be Miami versus Georgia in this year's SEC championship game. And once again, never really a competitive one-score game late. Georgia goes on to win this one by 10. While they already have a national championship in this dynasty, that is their first SEC championship. As last year's Heisman winner Ryan Puglisi is your player of the game in this SEC championship. The Dogs are going to celebrate with their trophy as they are headed into the college football playoff. Your Heisman winner is Louisiana Tech quarterback Walker White. Since this is year 5, I am assuming he's not a real person at this point. But Georgia is your number 1 seed. They'll play the winner of Arkansas, North Carolina. And as you look at it, they've got quite a favorable draw here because some of these other teams, I mean, Middle Tennessee State, Rice, Oregon State, Jacksonville State, Hawaii. There are a lot of random teams here. I named Oregon State because they're no longer a Power 4 team. But even the other Power 4 teams are kind of random. As we advance a couple weeks now, we see Georgia wins their first game over North Carolina. Now they just have to knock off Kentucky, and they will be in the national title game. And as we advance the week, you will see that they've been able to do that. They will be playing South Carolina in the national championship game. South Carolina knocked off Middle Tennessee State, who was 4 points away from playing for a national title. As we jump into this one late, South Carolina's got the ball down 7 near midfield as they hit a big pass down close to the red zone at about the 22-yard line. Jumping ahead a few plays, it's now 4th and goal for South Carolina. Do or die time. Quarterback drops back, slings it over to the right, and that is a touchdown for the Gamecocks. And they are going to tie this one up. So now with 1:48 on the clock, Georgia has to come back and score to win this one. They can be the first team to win the SEC and the national title in the 12-team playoff era in this dynasty as well. As we've got 2nd and inches now, Georgia just needs a couple of inches to get a first down to keep this drive moving. But the quarterback drops back and throws an incomplete pass. It's going to be 3rd and inches now. And if they don't get this, they will probably punt. So a bit of an odd situation as they've got a trips bunch to the bottom out wide. Quarterback throws over the middle. Had a man, but it is incomplete. It's now 4th and inches, and Georgia's going to line up to punt. So a game that they appeared to be in control of when I started showing these clips, they are now going to have a chance to lose if South Carolina can go down and score. And South Carolina's going to have tremendous field position across the Georgia 40-yard line at the 42. There's still over a minute to play. Both teams have all their timeouts. South Carolina drops back, throws. It's complete for a short gain close to midfield. 2nd and 3 now after they take a timeout. They come back. South Carolina, the quarterback rolls out, throws back to the other side, complete into Georgia territory. Now they go hurry up and get back on the ball. They look to the sideline for the play. Quarterback takes the snap. Now he drops back, throws over the middle. It is complete down inside the 20. So South Carolina is very much in business now. Maybe not inside the 20. They mark them just outside the 20, but still, South Carolina very much in business. Georgia's down to 2 timeouts. South Carolina could just run this ball down. Georgia will take their 2 timeouts, and then on 3rd down, South Carolina can just run the clock down as low as they want. They do just that. And with 7 seconds left, line up for a field goal. And that'll do it as the clock expires. South Carolina is your national champion this year. They knock off the Georgia Bulldogs by a score of 20-17. Georgia looks dejected. Their fans are upset. But this was not meant to be their year. Last year was, though. As these players shake hands at midfield and South Carolina hoists their trophy. Now we move into the offseason, our recruiting rankings. Once again, Georgia's up there and Auburn is right there as well. Texas, Oregon, LSU round out the top 5. Kentucky has been killing it on the recruiting rankings. Wisconsin is another team that I've seen appear here quite a bit. As we look at the top classes in the SEC, you'll see Clemson down at 100. So I am definitely thinking that we should swap Clemson out for Auburn. I think that'll probably be the last swap of the dynasty just because Auburn and USC were teams that were being pretty strongly considered in the first place. So since both of them have kind of proved that they belong as this has gone on, I'm okay with adding them in. I don't think I'll add in like a Wisconsin even if they become like a 90 overall because they weren't really ever in the running for this in the first place. But anyway, moving forward to mid-season here in year 6 now. Top the conference, we have Georgia, USC, Miami, and Texas, all with just 2 conference losses. And then down at the bottom, we've got 1-8 Clemson and 0-8 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's pretty safe because they won a national championship, so I'm not going to remove them. I think Clemson's got to be the next team on the chopping block just because they haven't been performing that well in the seasons, and their recruiting has also faltered quite a bit. Now looking at the first projection, it looks like Miami, USC, and Georgia are our teams that are in the running for the playoff here. But as we move forward to the end of the season, our conference championship is going to be USC versus Georgia, as FSU and Miami just miss out. Now as we look at the playoff projections before the conference championship, USC, the second-ranked team in the country, or actually the third-ranked team in the country, is number 2 in the seedings, and Georgia, the fourth-ranked team in the country, is number 6 here. Miami's down at number 9. So now we're going to go ahead and get into this conference championship game. I'm showing this screen just to show that USC is now a 90 overall. They're not the 84, 85 as they keep appearing. One thing I noticed here, as now we watch the wind down of the USC-Georgia game, one thing I noticed in this dynasty is that the only time when the ratings update for a team, like their overall ratings, like the number that it shows their overall, their offense, defense at, only updates when you like click into a game with them or like go into that screen that brings up the entrance to a game. So that's why I showed USC on the screen, just to show, because previous to this it had been showing them as like an 84, 85 overall. And after a few years I could tell those numbers weren't updating in most screens in this game. So that's definitely something EA should fix. I don't know if this is a me problem, but I feel like it's happened in a bunch of my dynasties. As USC scores here now to take a lead with under a minute 40. But anyway, yeah, EA Sports definitely needs to fix the ratings screen there. Overall ratings should update accurately across seasons, but it very clearly was not happening here. Anyway, Georgia now looking to drive down and score, but they throw an interception on the first play of the drive, and that could do it. USC should be able to win this one, as they are able to run down the clock a little bit, make Georgia burn their timeouts to get into victory formation. USC takes a knee, and that is it. That's going to be their first SEC championship. Here in year 6 of the dynasty, this is USC's 4th year in the conference, and they have risen to the mountaintop here as Josh Thompson, their receiver, wins the Heisman Trophy with 19 touchdowns. He barely cracked 1,000 yards, but hey, he won the award. USC will be the 1 seed with a possible matchup against Miami looming. Georgia will be the 6 seed. Looking at the final conference standings, Miami gets in. Florida State maybe feeling a little snubbed as they have the same record, but are ahead of Miami in the conference standings. That might mean they beat them. Clemson 1-11, Oklahoma 1-11, but like I said, Oklahoma is safe. Clemson probably not. As we move on to round 2 now, Georgia knocks off NC State. Miami loses to Baylor, so we will not get an SEC matchup in the quarterfinals. But maybe we can get a USC versus Georgia national championship rematch. We'll see how that goes. That'd be pretty cool, actually. And we're still alive for it, as Georgia will play Auburn, USC will play Kentucky, and Auburn continues to register on my radar as they make it to the semifinals. But we will get our rematch. But we will get Georgia versus USC in the national championship game. Now, one thing I became curious about is now playing a team three times in a season is now possible. So I wanted to see if that happened here, and it did indeed. USC won the first 2 matchups. So Georgia is going to be looking for redemption here in the 3rd one. As we get into this one here in the mid-4th quarter, USC comes out down 4, hits a play for a touchdown. But, however, pass interference, but it's on the defense, so USC will decline this. The touchdown will stand. USC takes a 17-14 lead here in the 4th quarter. Now skipping ahead a little bit, approaching the 2-minute timeout. I can't say that other word. Georgia hits a bomb down the sideline, and that's going to be a touchdown. The Dogs come right back and take the lead here right before the 2-minute timeout. So this is a back-and-forth affair here now as we cut back to USC on offense now with 1:48 left. I realize I might have said 2-minute warning at another point in this video. I guess I'm kind of kidding, pretending to not say that. Hopefully the NFL is not going to sue me. And USC here on 2nd and 10 now. Throws down the sideline. They get close to midfield, and they take a timeout now, as they need a touchdown. A field goal will not cut it for them at this point. QB barking signals out in an empty set, takes the snap, throws, and it's intercepted by Georgia. And now we got a big return. Down the sidelines, he's going to go all the way. Georgia's going to take this back to the end zone, and that should do it as they take a double-digit lead now here, under 2 minutes in the national championship game. That celebration is definitely apt here, as that is what happened. USC would score a late touchdown to make it look a little more respectable, but Georgia gets this win in the national championship game, avenging their 2 prior losses this season by a score of 28-23. That is Georgia's 3rd straight appearance in the national championship and their 2nd national championship in the past 3 years, as they lost to South Carolina last year, but they defeated Nebraska the year before. Now, as we head into the offseason, we take a look at the recruiting rankings. Georgia and Auburn are once again at the top. Oregon also up there. At this point, we've got a list of usual suspects, it seems like. And I think it is time to make the move with Auburn. I think we're going to do that this offseason. At this point, our conference isn't dominating the top 10 as much, as you've got NC State up there, you've got Kansas State, South Carolina, and Iowa all in the top 10. And as we look at the SEC recruiting rankings, obviously Georgia's at the top. Clemson a little bit more in the middle of the pack this time, as they have the 27th ranked class, and Notre Dame is the one who kind of struggled this year. Anyway, take a quick look at Auburn's roster, and yeah, they are quite stacked. They also have a junior quarterback who's a 90 overall, and that seems to give teams a bit of a boost in this game. I feel like I've seen a lot of like Nebraska getting really good in the future because of Raiola. Same thing with Tennessee and Nico. So I think a good quarterback does really make a difference in this game. Whereas on the other hand, Clemson has fallen off a little bit. Their roster didn't look quite as good. So I think we are going to go ahead and make this switch here. Auburn, welcome to the SEC. As we go ahead and get to the middle of the season, Clemson is 6-1 back in the ACC, but Auburn is 8-1 here. They're the number 2 team in the country. They have hit the ground running, as Alabama right behind them and Georgia right behind them. But yeah, this is definitely stiffened the competition in the conference, bringing in Auburn. And now as we scroll down to the bottom, Texas A&M is 1-6. Perhaps they could have been on the chopping block as well, because I think Clemson definitely is a more established powerhouse in recent years. But whatever. Anyway, moving on to conference championship weekend, Auburn will head into that as the number 1 seed. Alabama and Notre Dame are also in the projections as well. Notre Dame has not made a playoff appearance yet, but it looks like they're pretty much guaranteed. Even though they're 8-4, they are ranked 8th in the country. So I think they'll be getting in. Once again, I'm showing the screen before the game to show you that Auburn is not an 84 overall. They are an 89 overall. As I said, EA, it'd be nice if you fixed that. Anyway, this game was not close enough to jump into really at any moment. Alabama goes on to win 20-10. Both these teams should be in the playoff, though. Your Heisman winner is Miami quarterback Timmy Dunkel. What a name. 36 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. All right, here's the playoff bracket. Alabama is the 2 seed. Auburn is now the 6 seed. Notre Dame is the 9 seed. So we have 3 teams in the playoff. We have yet to surpass 3 teams in the playoff. And I think it's going to be tough to do that given the structure of our conference with the 12-game conference schedule. Moving on to the next week, Missouri knocks off Notre Dame, so they're out. Auburn gets a win. They'll play South Carolina, and Alabama will play Kentucky. We could get an Alabama versus Auburn rematch in the next game. That probably would be their 3rd meeting of the year. Let's see if that happens. Funny enough, 6 of these remaining 8 teams are in the real-life SEC. Moving on, one semifinal is going to be North Texas versus Arkansas, but in the other one, we do get our wish, an Auburn versus Alabama rematch. I'm not going to jump into this because I really only jumped into the national championship games and the conference championship games. Perhaps I could have done these. I just didn't want to set a precedent for too much, to put too much into this video, you know. But anyway, checking on the schedule, they did play the last game of the season against Alabama, and then the conference championship, and then the semifinal game, which Auburn was able to win 34-10. So Auburn will move on to the national championship. Also, looking at that screen really brings to attention how much a playoff run is going to be like a second season for teams, because that was like another 5 or 6 games. Now, Auburn gets it done. They knock off Arkansas in the national title. So Auburn's first year in the SEC definitely proves to be the correct move, because they go on to win the national championship, absolutely running the gauntlet. losing just 2 games all season, one of them being the conference championship. They win this one 30-14 and hoist the trophy. Now as we move into the offseason to National Signing Day, Auburn ends up with the number 1 class in the country. Georgia drops down to number 4. Wisconsin still hanging around there with the number 3 class in the country. They have really recruited well in this dynasty. And so we move on to year 8 now. As we look at some of these other schools, Oregon still ranking up there. Texas Tech, though, making an appearance up here. TCU has gotten quite good at this point in the dynasty. South Carolina is still hanging around. Florida State finally got back up there in 12th, but it looks kind of inflated by a bunch of 3-stars. As you see, they only have 12 blue-chip recruits, but 21 3-stars, so that seems perhaps a little misleading. Not a true top 12 class, maybe. As now we take a look at the conference recruiting rankings. Again, Auburn obviously number 1, but down at the bottom, Texas A&M again with 18 2-stars. They only signed 1 4-star and 3 3-stars. That is not a great class for them. Penn State also down at 79. They had a lot more, or 8 more people in their class, but also not a great job here. Now as we advance to the first college football playoff rankings, Georgia and USC are at the top. And at this point, I started to get kind of curious about how these teams have evolved over these now 8 years, 7.5 years. So I did the tedious process of clicking into the screen to enter into their games that they're playing to see what the overalls are and get an updated perspective on how these teams are doing. First up, Notre Dame and Miami. 89 overall Notre Dame, 88 overall Miami. Miami's offense a 90. Notre Dame's offense also a 90, as you can see. I'm not going to read every number on the screen. Next up, we've got 90 overall USC, 89 overall Oregon. Then we've got 86 overall Michigan has faltered a bit, 90 overall Texas, 89 overall Florida Gators, 88 overall Ohio State. The next up, we've got Penn State has fallen all the way down to an 82 overall. Maybe I should have checked this before I booted Clemson out. And Oklahoma at 89. LSU's randomly playing Oregon State for some reason, but they are an 86 overall. Then Auburn. Alabama's a 93. Auburn we had just seen last year, but I figured we could still update it. Georgia a 91. Those 3 teams didn't play the 1 week I checked, so I had to go to forward weeks to check them. And I checked some other teams that I was curious about. Wisconsin is an 89. They happen to be playing Tennessee, so we get to check that. Kentucky is also an 89, and TCU is an 87. TCU is the number 1 team in the country, so I was interested in looking at them. Kentucky I was also interested in looking at because they have been recruiting well, I've noticed. Other schools I wanted to check out, Nebraska, they're an 89 overall. NC State, who's been consistently good, 89 overall, and Georgia Tech, who's the number 3 team in the country here, 88 overall. Now moving on, end of the season, we have USC and Miami. Look like they're going to play in the conference title. Miami 4 losses. The conference did very much cannibalize itself this year as Florida State drops down to 2-10. But yeah, everyone pretty bunched up in the middle with at least 4 losses except for USC. As we look at these projections before the conference championship games, USC is projected to be the 3 seed. So it looks like they're probably safe either way with a ranking of number 5. Even a loss to Miami should have them in there. Speaking of loss to Miami, this one wasn't even close. Miami blew the doors off of USC. They beat them 28-0. So that should put Miami into the playoff, I thought. But guess what? There's a big twist coming here. Raheem Ogletree is your Heisman winner. Sorry to spoil the lead, but I think here it comes. Miami's not in the playoff. So for 2 days after recording this, before I edited this video, I thought that this had to be some sort of mistake, but I don't think it is a mistake. I think it's because Miami's not one of the top 5 conference champions in ranking, so they didn't get an automatic spot. I mean, I think this would basically never happen in real life where the SEC champion didn't get in, and I'm not sure if these are the real rules or not. I went back to double check. Miami did win that game 28-0, but they've been put in the Texas Bowl against Arizona. So yeah, moving on, USC is able to win their first game against NC State. I still kind of feel like Miami got robbed. I think in real life they'd be in somehow, like, even with 4 losses, like they'd figure it out. But that didn't happen, and unfortunately we're not going to be represented in the national championship this year for the first time since year 2 when Pitt beat Kansas State, because USC has been clobbered by Utah in the quarterfinal game, 42-14. Moving on, apparently this is the only screen where I looked at the national championship result. That was Utah over Maryland by a score of 44-26. Heading into the offseason now with 8 years in the books, Auburn is once again the number 1 team in recruiting. TCU is 4th, Wisconsin is 7th, Arizona State making an appearance at 8th, but the rest of the top 10 are SEC teams. So that has persisted through all of this. As we get to our preseason rankings now, Georgia Tech is the number 1 team in the country. So we haven't exactly been able to dominate on the field as much this conference because of the 12-game conference schedule sort of forcing teams to cannibalize each other, but we have crushed it in recruiting. As we head to the first college football playoff ranking, Alabama and Auburn atop the conference, Georgia very much in the mix, as is LSU finally for once, and Oregon, all with 2 losses or less in conference. So is this year that the Georgia Bulldogs get back onto the mountaintop, as they are 9-3, 9-2 in conference, as they had a lucky out-of-conference game. Alabama's 9-3, 8-3 in conference. They lost their out-of-conference game, as did Oregon. Then down at the bottom, we have Florida State, Penn State. Here, I looked at conference prestige. SEC has an A+. No other conference is above an A-, so I guess that's pretty true, accurate to where I think it should be. Here in the conference title, this one not close enough to get any good action. Georgia wins it by 10 as they kneel it out there, and they're going to celebrate another conference championship. That is actually only their second in this dynasty, even though they've been in the national championship game 3 times. And they don't get a first-round bye here. They will be the 7th seed, and they will be the only team from our conference in the playoff. As we head on, and the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be NC State quarterback Titus Casey. And now we see Georgia was able to win their first game against Louisiana and will now play number 2 TCU in the quarterfinals. The Ohio Bobcats will get the West Virginia Mountaineers. And moving on, as Georgia handles TCU with relative ease and then handles Arkansas, we will get Georgia versus West Virginia in the national championship game, as the Mountaineers, after not making a ton of noise in this dynasty, come out of nowhere in year 9 to play for a title. As we head into this game, we're going to check out West Virginia's overall. They are an 87. Georgia a little back down to reality at an 89. I think they were like a 92 last time we looked at them. But this one, again, not close enough to really watch any of, and West Virginia is going to pull this one out. They win this 17-14. I was waiting for Georgia to get the ball in a 1-score game, but once they made it a 3-point game, West Virginia was just able to run out the clock. So there was no high drama there to watch. As Georgia's 4th appearance in the national championship game ends with them now being 2-2 in these games, as they lose to West Virginia. Heading into our final offseason now ahead of year 10. Oregon's number 1 in recruiting, Georgia 2, Auburn 3. TCU and Ole Miss cracked the party along with Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Nebraska to make it 5 teams in the top 10 that are outside of our conference. But still, having half the top 10 in one conference is quite impressive. Throughout this entire dynasty, our schools have definitely dominated recruiting. Also, I suppose it's worth noting that USC and Auburn have been mainstays on this list, and they were added later on, so not original members, I suppose. Now, the preseason poll, Georgia is 3 in spite of 40 first-place votes, but they are first in the coaches' poll. As we look at the rest of the rankings, and now we check out the conference in the preseason, I suppose there's not really much to learn here, which is why I don't think I did this at any previous point in the video, but it's here, not taking it out. Jumping ahead to the midpoint in the season, Georgia and Oregon appear to be in control. A couple of other teams, Miami and A&M at 5-2, have a shot to make some noise. But Georgia is ranked 3, Oregon is ranked 4. Down at the bottom, Alabama going out like a lamb, 1-8. As we move forward to the conclusion of the regular season, Oregon is 11-1. And Miami is 9-3. Wait, they're 7-2 in the conference. That's only 9 conference games. They played 3 out-of-conference games. That's like a normal schedule. All right, Miami's scamming everybody and getting their way into the conference championship somehow that they don't belong in. Alabama ends up 1-11. Woof. Ohio State 3-9. They really did not make any noise at any point in this dynasty. There are a number of teams: Florida State, Florida, LSU, Penn State, Ohio State. Michigan was really only good in the first year. Overall, as a conference, we've enjoyed a lot of success. We've been in the national championship every year but two. But it's been like a few members doing this. Miami played San Diego State and UConn. They lost to San Diego State. And they also played FCS Southeast. So they've kind of scammed their way into the conference championship here. NC State is undefeated but ranked 2. That's probably how it should be. Throughout this dynasty, I haven't felt like our teams got enough respect for just how difficult these schedules are. Like, I think in real life, schedules like this, you'd be seeing like 4 or 5 lost teams getting a lot of forgiveness for having those records. We get into our last SEC title game. We put Oregon into some fun uniforms, and their quarterback appears scared to throw the ball, which is not great because they're down 3 points and they need to move forward to get some yards to at least get a field goal. He gets sacked on first down. Then we hit the 2-minute timeout. I just realized that the game calls it the 2-minute warning. I wonder if the NFL is going to knock on EA's door about that. Now, rolling out of the pocket, this guy does not want to throw the ball. He's going to take off and run, and he's going to get hit out of bounds. It looks like they're going to pick up a personal foul. They're going to get gifted 15 yards while their offense can't do anything. And Miami's trying to hand this game to Oregon, perhaps, as Oregon's going to get a first down across midfield. Now, can they actually go forward without penalties now? We will see. At the 46-yard line. In the shotgun, Oregon's quarterback drops back, holds onto the ball too long, throws, and that's going to be incomplete. He attempted a pass this time, I guess. Coming back on 2nd and 10 now. 1:49 on the clock. Quarterback takes the snap, drops back, pressure's coming at him. Takes off to run. He's got a lot of room. Slides down at about the 32-yard line. So they are in field goal range now if he could just not do anything stupid. But given the chaotic nature of their offense so far, I don't have a ton of faith in them. Now on first down, holds it again, takes off, breaks a tackle, and rumbles down to about the 17-yard line. All right, now it would take some real stupidity to screw this up. Let's see how this goes. Quarterback in an empty set, takes the snap, holds it, gets sacked, and they are back out at the 26-yard line now. So now we've got a 2nd and 19 now, still in field goal range as long as they don't commit another grave mistake here. Clock is running, 1:05. Quarterback takes the snap, throws, and they will pick up 2 yards. Oregon will take a timeout. I'm not sure that was totally necessary, but it's 3rd and 17 now. Quarterback drops back. He's holding the ball. Oh, God, he's running backwards. Oh, no. And they will be sacked. It's going to be 4th and 30. They're going to go hurry up. It would be about a 54-yard field goal from here. They're not going to try it looks like. They're going to snap the ball on 4th and 30. And they're going to throw on the run. And he's got a guy, and it's knocked away. That was close. They had a shot there, but Miami's going to be able to kneel this one out. And the Canes are going to win 10-7 in the final SEC championship game here in year 10 of this dynasty. That'll be Miami's 2nd SEC championship in these 10 years. They won their first one in year 8 a couple years ago. Nobody won more than 2 in this dynasty. Now our last year, we have Oregon at 6, we have Miami at 12, and we've got something interesting there at number 11. Look at Georgia Tech. All right, now let's go to the schedules here. Georgia Tech is 10-3. Georgia is ranked 12th at 9-3, so they're the first team out. They're the last team to not make it. But here's the thing. Georgia's conference record is 8-3. That means they played 1 out-of-conference game, as another NC State quarterback wins the Heisman, Dan Mastrid. So Georgia didn't get in over Georgia Tech. I think you could possibly see where I'm heading with this. It's virtually the same record. Tech played 1 more game. But however, as we scroll down here, Georgia Tech lost to Georgia a few weeks ago in the final regular season game of the season by 3 points, yet Tech is still ranked ahead of them and getting into the playoff over them, in spite of almost certainly playing a much easier schedule and not being their conference champion, because that is clearly NC State. So the committee absolutely screwing our conference over here. This ACC bias is out of control. As Miami wins their first game, Oregon wins their first game. Miami loses their second game to Iowa, but Oregon against TCU in the semifinals. Oregon will have a shot here to win their first national championship of the dynasty. As they knock off TCU, we're going to have Oregon against Iowa. In year 1, Oregon lost the Big Ten championship and then made it to the national championship and then lost the national championship. In year 10, Oregon has lost the Big Ten championship and they've now made it to the national championship. Now, can they hold on for a victory? They're up 11 here late. Iowa hits a big play down the sideline to get close to scoring position, so it's not over yet. But Oregon does have an 11-point lead with 1 minute and 11 seconds left, and Iowa only has one timeout. Now, Iowa lining up here again. They need to score quickly because they need 2 scores. But on another note, as this dynasty winds down, I would like to summarize that we had Georgia win 2 conference championships. We had Alabama win 2 conference championships. We had Miami win 2 conference championships. And we had Texas win 2 conference championships. Then the remaining 2 years were won by Michigan in year 1 and USC in year 6. Georgia led the dynasty in playoff appearances with 5. And of those 5, year 3 was the only time Georgia did not make it to the national championship game. Georgia did win 2 national championships, as Iowa's going to attempt a field goal here to make it a 1-score game, but they are going to miss. So that should do it for this one. Georgia won 2 national championships. They're the only team to win multiple. Other national championship winners from the conference are Oklahoma and Auburn. And now, I don't think I'm really spoiling much, but Oregon is going to win this game as well as they take a knee. So it looks like 5 out of 10 years we did win the national championship, although Auburn maybe deserves an asterisk because they won the first year they were put in because we noticed how good they were. Oregon, in spite of winning this championship, they never won the conference during these 10 years. Auburn and Oklahoma also have national championships but never won the conference. Nobody ever won the conference and the national championship in the same year. In year 4, Georgia won the national championship, but Texas won the conference. In year 6, Georgia won the national championship, but USC won the conference. Miami was the only conference champion to get left out of the playoff that one year in year 8. Year 2 and year 9 are the only years that we were not represented in the national title. The other 8 years, one of our teams made it. Year 2 was Pitt over Kansas State. Year 8 was Utah over Maryland. We never had more than 3 teams make the playoff. We had 3 seasons where only 1 team made the playoff. That was year 2 with Alabama, year 5 with Georgia, and year 9 with Georgia. Teams from outside our conference to win a national championship are Pitt, Kansas State, South Carolina, Utah, and West Virginia. And that'll do it. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe.